Hey, this is Misery Loves Company, a weekly social reading series hosted by miserytourism.com. Every Friday, we welcome outsider and transgressive writers to come and share their work with us. And it's Friday, so let's get fucking going here. First up is Michael.
Cool. Let me just drop the link. Yeah, so this is something very new. I finished the ending of it today. It's very much a first draft, so just gonna kind of see how it goes. Hopefully it doesn't overstay its welcome. It's called Organ Diary. Scrawled above this scratch paper diary is a checklist of the organs of return from the restful defeat of rural Massachusetts to recover. Stomach, heart, lungs. 24 hours to chase the parts of me abandoned 6 months prior by a different me. Someone I wouldn't recognize on the other side of a crosswalk brawl. My train rattles across winter bleached Brooklyn. I watch people pitch tents on one of the bombed out beauty rooftops. Doesn't make sense to me. Maybe they've rented their rooms out for food. Notebook snap, drawn breath, skin honeycomb to the locomotive air. Nostalgia is a hostile ex-partner rippling in the skyline gleam. I feel glad to be back, inside these paper cuts of time, the time before my mission begins. Passengers tug their bags from the racks as the train shudders through the tunnel, drain their water bottles, raise masks to their noses. My memories gain more flesh as I age. The mirrored station floor remembers the weight I've gained. Manhattan is a few walls away. I'm afraid I'll see familiar faces in the terminal crowd. 7 days of text tag with an old roommate have led to a phone call near Penn. Every third word is shouted through a can. Nowhere found. This late winter heat wave dries me out. I would drink a plastic ocean. Nearby, a manhole screams a song to heaven while workmen wonder what to do with their hands, finger their phones as the pigeons gnaw their feet. Sorry, Z, my old roommate says. Something about the super, my number. It's all they can do, they say. Their reluctance is natural. I'm vague, indistinct from bare apartment walls, a nameless recollection destined for the next sleep's info dump. Our shared occupancy was meant to be forgotten. But I need them. I cough into my shoulder and think about my stomach. Thanks, I say. I hide from the sun beneath the bones of an old phone booth. Rode out 5 blizzard minutes here 5 winters back. Another time took a piss while a cop's glare cupped my cheek. Another time pulverized my laptop when the startup cache ran dry. Broke jaw motherboard powdered the sidewalk. Nothing but anger. Another time an old man unfurled his jeans and shat beneath the bombed out metro sun because every other door in the city told him no. Lungs first. One train uptown. One of those co-work squats you read about. Empty kegs on every floor, but now they charge you. Free money echo boom still collecting tithes. Venture cap madmen traded for their private echo popes. My old ID welcomes me through the private gates. They take my picture. I've never felt older. Sweat drops on the elevator carpet. Dark red circles spread. I am afraid of heights. Heard a story in college once. Guy rode the shafts in a 20-floor library, bound from car to car. Legs caught a crossbeam and tore him open with the hate of a father. Asked for proof that I worked here. I show my page on the website. The clips, the articles, the fact I was there. We don't even cover this stuff anymore, an editor tells me. I can tell they're sympathetic, but I'm long past a newsroom myth. So I'm handed to HR. A claw grip arm guide down the hallway to a break room, windowless. I shake a vending machine to free some gum. Doesn't work. Sip tap water while my gums grow tighter. Worry about my breath. Write some of this down, a record of ruin. Fetched an hour later. Parked in a meeting room that overlooks the sedentary skyline. Sterilized midtown. Commercial culture groping for clouds. Placed across an editor's editor. An invisible function, a salary. I watch them tap the keys, then the screen. Furrowed frustration. The editor's editor looks past me to the door. Do you get a signal up here? They ask. I take my phone out, screen lifeless to preserve the battery for the concrete sojourn. A crack-lined face stares back. Then I say, yeah, I do. Hold on, the editor's editor says. They leave the room. The minutes dribble to the floor. The weak bladder of time. Too much forfeited to this weight. I wonder whether I've died. The door opens, some squeal-faced HR goon. They're fresh out of college. Adulthood measured by meager salary. I'm sorry, somebody should have told you, they say. Layoffs, some mix-up really. They meant to do it this morning. Through the door, a yell. primal mouth, like someone tearing all the consonants out. I'm just here for my lungs, I say. I emailed M. The goon fingers their phone like you'd pick a scab. I jot a few notebook curses, like this one. Fuck you, younger me, for trading away the best decade of sun. M left the company 3 days ago, the HR goon says. I bet it's in the editorial closet, I say, where we used to keep the old laptops. I know somebody stuffed my things in a box. The HR goon leads me deeper into the office, through a field of long tables, computer monitors beneath slow bleed fans. Many of the screens are dark. Some people are packing up boxes. You can tell they're writers because some of them are crying while some look proud about being let go. I wonder about the poems and stories under their skin, how much they itch, how many will bleed through the surface when the daylight ends. The editorial closet is near the bathrooms, the spare one in the old days. Paper gushes through the door as it opens. Our failure to organize is generational. The HR goon leaves to find some bags and I step inside. The paper craters around my feet like dry mud. At least a dozen trees dead in process beneath me. I make for the stacked boxes in the rear. I hear the HR goon coaxing paper into a trash bag. Does B still run the tech team? I ask. I think of howling triumphs down Madison Avenue, articles forged in lightning panic, cigarettes snuck in emergency stairwells, the goddamn high of breaking news, the heads of our enemies on verbal pikes, $20 nigiri expensed at noon, armchair races down the uneven hallway, the frenzied makeout session behind the busted printer, the one bought but never used. Who? The HR goon asks. Never mind, I say. I uncover the lungs in the rearmost box. The HR goon helps clear a path for my escape. Standing in the hallway, old memos and performance assessments flurried at our feet. I don't know what to say. I feel the instinct to warn, to protect, to assure them that there's a world out there, that they are wanted. But I don't work here anymore. I bring the box into the bathroom by the elevator, the one with the lock inside. Unfold the diaper station and rest the box on top. The tape peels away like a scab. Someone put my lungs in twin plastic bags, still moist despite the months in hiding. I flip my diary open to scrawl a final testimony should I not survive. I try to love as much as possible. My chest comes apart at the scars, the seams where 6 months back I left my lungs behind. Fingernails, dirted by these city hours, grind into the flesh. Blood smears on corporation tile. Legs quiver like horses too tired to escape. I keep stepping in the blood. I lean against the sink, another body, the office body. Fingers drilling muscle now. While I go to work on myself, I dissolve into memory, bad things witnessed in New York, the separated pain. An early summer concert, the one where I took too much acid, the venue's schizo-syncopations, the sidewalk's undead throng. Residential towers grin across the street, rows of windows lit with fire and teeth. A car grinds to a halt beyond the crosswalk. Woman exits, screams about a baby. Please hand me the baby, the baby. Door slams, car snaps forward like a busted arm. A red Jag past the corner. The woman screams into her phone, her hands, the high wind heat wave sky. 2 minutes pass and the car returns. The baby, she says. Someone grabs my shoulder and begs for fire. They need one more cigarette before it's time to turn their life around. They really mean it this time, they say. I give them half my smokes. Turn back, the car, the mother, baby, gone. I watch the reborn smoker's eyes melt down to their mouth, an accursed whirl of suction and relief. I use the shoelaces from the spare pair in my backpack to close my chest. Grip the porcelain, first new breaths from with dormant lungs. I feel a swell, the nourishment of blood, my blood, me, a me first lost and now returned. But then nausea coils like a dying cat inside. My eyes expand to bubbles, float beside my head. I seize the diary, jot down these thoughts in frenzied bursts, flooded with apologies and songs. Out on the street again, a spasmodic mess left behind. No matter. Every second passes feels like the last. I keep writing, I'm sorry in this diary. I pay $1 for a bottle of water, drain it, buy another. My smartphone shudders. Come by for your shit, says the screen. My old roommate. There's a number to call. I don't know how to get to Brooklyn. What horrors claim me down beneath the soil. Later, in my diary, I find echoes of a fight, taser brandished, a scuffle between train cars, a preacher pleading madness while a guzheng murmured on the platform. Connection, connection, connection. Tracks rattle like toneless pianos. One line stands out. I might stay down here forever. My old building rises near the subway maw outside, more or less a boarding house. I send a text to the number my old roommate gave me and lean against the brick. Feel the sunlight drunk today. Remember rooftop parties, standing near the edge. Wonder how it might have felt if plunging were allowed. Kisses shared and stolen in that twilight. So far behind in time. How young and beautiful it was. Zach? Asks a voice. Behind me, there's a shadow draped by man, gray skinned, dressed for summer. I follow them inside and down a hallway that resurrects my smile, the most nostalgic stumble yet, then down a basement I never got to see. Cobwebs stream like drifting jaws, doors with numbers 0A, 0B, 0C. Along the wall rides a bleach white water line, the jagged height the storm surge made 2 years before. Handprints mar the water line's pace, its purity. The grotesque truth, few escape this life alive. My stomach is a forlorn husk, long exposed to ferocious stagnance in a box at the end of the hall. It falls to pieces in my hands. I feel sick, but not as sick as I could have been, if I had made it in time. There is, however, one last tongue to pull. A ticket to a show in Queens, an independent opera, underground orchestra, abandoned factory acoustics, the kind that cash can't buy. Jay is directing. In my diary, I write the one who got away, but then crossed it out. I don't think I had the words to explain what existed between us, but for a few beautiful months, I knew how gravity tasted. And for that, my heart remained with Jay when I left with this place. I spend my dinner money on a cab, bathe myself in man-made heat, trace my smartphone's glaze, read 1,000 arguments, fights about art and religion and abortion, and why contempt is the latest vibe. Brooklyn drifts past like a recurring dream. People queue at the doors of bars, waiting to be let inside. New York is one long wait. I wonder how long I'll have to wait this time. I'm not sure what they made in the factory. A trickle of people flows inside. Metal chairs and a half moon. Black-clad string players rosin their bows. Pallets frame a makeshift stage. Graffiti blooms the walls. The countless testimonies of all who sought a canvas in this place. I think about the things I never wrote. How this diary is a crutch. How I've never had the discipline to have something to say. The opera begins as the last sun fades through the torn glass windows. Voices clamber atop a river of strings, a bombed out bass. The conductor rows his arms. The opera is about two couples who make a home in catacombs, too poor to rent anything else. The life they bring inside plants, lights, infants, jokes about stained glass toys. The couples blend. Polyamory at the place where life and death meet. The silent audience broken only by the drift of programs to the floor. A darkness too serene to read. I linger outside when it ends, my hands numb from the applause. It was beautiful, I rehearse in my head. Peek inside where the company stacks chairs in the shadows and dust. Zach, comes a voice. Jay, sleek and black. Glad you got the ticket, they say. It was beautiful. Was it? Really, I meant every clap. Jay grins. Then they said, I thought you said you were finished with this place. Something about disgust. I came back for a few things. Sometimes it's better to let a few strings hang. Keeps the future interesting. Maybe. People touch Jay's shoulder, whisper congratulations as they leave. We're doing drinks at a bar down the street. Final show of the run. Want to join? They ask. I couldn't eat if I wanted to, I think. Then I say, I thought we might get a bite to eat. Talk a bit. Jay flexes her fingers, cracks the knuckles. Sure, they say. Small diner near the freeway. One of those joints you build movies about New York around. Maroon cushioned booths, greasy trade winds, Bible thick menus. Jay orders smoothies and some fries. I drink water, crunch the ice. You know, Jay starts to say, fried dissolve to mush inside her mouth. She swallows. Then she says, if you want it, it's yours. It always was. I try not to smile. There's a lot that could mean, I say. All of it, she says, or none of it. You were the one who always made it complicated. I blame my grandmother, I say. Jay grins. You always did. Jay places a small ruby leather purse on the table, undoes its buckles, lifts a quivering heart, somewhat enlarged, beating a little too fast, eats the last fry and lays the heart on the plate. Here it is, they say. Just as I left it. Jay tilts her head to the side. Your doing, not mine, they say. I reach for the heart, but something stops my hand. It shakes like a novice pilot. Can't do it? Asks Jay. I don't know. Don't want to? Maybe. We, people like us, people like us never want to fully release the past. We'd rather chew on it until we die. Yeah. Jay slices my heart into pieces. Blood threatens the edges of the plate, then dribbles on the table, stains the napkins. Jay puts the fork in my hand. Eat, they say. Slowly, I spear some flesh, put it in my mouth and chew. I think of the time Jay and I snuck nude down the beach at Far Rockaway, threw our bodies against the surf, made mad dissolving love against the furor of the sea. I pass Jay the fork and they eat a piece of heart. That farmer's market where we used to shop, they say. The one with fresh chicken. I loved that place. Me too. Those Vermonters. We talked about moving there once, remember that? I do. Jane leans back and a crimson grin widens on her face. I'm glad you're here, they say, for one last meal. Me too, I say, and my fingers soften against theirs as I take the fork again. And that's it.
This is awesome, Michael. I love the way this is written. I mean, literally, I love the way you've like written this on a sentence level. I love the fact that you've chosen to use all of these short, sparse sentences in this piece because it's such a surreal piece, right? And I think your decision to be restrained in terms of detail, in terms of embellishment, really makes the surreality of the piece shine, and really makes like the piece resonate emotionally. I think that, excuse me, I there are so many great individual lines in this piece too. I put a few of the ones I really liked in the chat, but everything, like, I love the fact that it opens by telling you what the story is about, right? But you don't really process it, right? You think it's when you talk about going into the city to retrieve your lungs, your heart, and your stomach, your brain says, "Oh, this is a metaphor, right?" Okay, and since the story is so anchored in the mundane up to a point, it comes as such a shock when your narrator does exactly what they told the audience they were going to do, right? When the actual physical lungs are in a little baggie at the work. And this kind of journey of like going back to space and trying to put yourself back together is one that obviously has a lot of emotional resonance for a lot of people. And you presented it in, I think, a totally unique and effective way that never loses sight of like the concrete mundane world that it's rooted in, but also like never loses that sense of weirdness and magic that kind of drives us back into our own past, right? Anyway, it's an awesome piece, Michael. Thank you for sharing it.
Thank you. And I appreciate those kind of thoughts. And thanks for letting me read it.
Yeah, thank you. John Padula is up next. Johnny Hollywood. Should I say John Padula or should I say Johnny Hollywood?
Okay, I got it on. Hollywood.
Hollywood? You're Johnny Hollywood now. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
We have two Johns tonight, so that makes it easier.
I'm trying to get a job, so I should have started using a pen name earlier.
Especially before you published in Misery Tourism.
Yeah. So I got the link for this. So basically, after getting rejected from every grad school I applied to, I've decided I not only need to become a better writer, but a better person. But I'm not going to do that right now. And as it stands, I have like a pile of these old stories that are just sitting around. So I thought I'd just go through them again. I read this before, but it's a little different. So I'm not totally being Josh Sherman right now. At least that's what I want to tell myself. So this one's extra cool style. Today is Stephen Miller's first day at Cornfield High School. He's so nervous. He didn't have any friends at his old school, Flyover State High, but it's still tough starting over at 0. His mom packed his lunch. He tears through it on the bus ride over. She left him a note. September 1st, 1998. Dear Stephen, sophomore year will be great. Don't be afraid to be yourself. Love you, Mom. She dated it September 1st, 1998, as a subtle way of establishing the setting. She drew every letter like a heart, and he couldn't read a single word of it. Steven goes to his locker, grabs his class schedule, and shuts it. He turns around and is shoved up against the lockers. Oh no, a big senior is towering over him. Steven is surrounded by a big group of big jocks. Hey nerd, you must be the new kid in town. I'm Paul Bradley, captain of football team 6. He offers his hand. Steven shakes it, and Paul pulls him in and noogies him. Oh no, in a headlock, Steven's head is pointed right at her. You see that hot piece of ass standing next to me? Yeah, that's my girlfriend, Veronica Stacy Bell. She's the hottest girl in school and the captain of the cheerleading hit squad. Veronica waves at Steven seductively. Paul picks Steven up by the scruff. You're new here, so I want to make something clear. I better, under no circumstances, catch you having sex with my girlfriend. Got it? Gulp. Steven nods. Good. He drops him. Now let's see your schedule. He swipes it from Steven's hands. Yoink. World history? He looks back at his jock goons. Scoffs. They echo. That's for babies. And they all break out into a hearty laughter. Ha ha ha. Paul crumples the schedule. Come on, guys. Let's go play football. And he throws the paper ball down the hallway. Perfect spiral. The goons run down the hall, laughing and high-fiving. Paul looks back, over the shoulder pauldron of his varsity jacket. You remember what I said, nerd. Don't you let me catch you having sex with my girlfriend. Anyway, French you later, faggot. The boys erupt into laughter that cuts out the moment they disappear around the corner. Veronica lingers at the end of the hall for a moment, just long enough to wink, blow a kiss, and flash her entire pussy at Steven. Some kid puts Steven's crumpled schedule back in his hands. Hey, don't let those guys give you trouble. They're just big cool jocks. I'm Josh. A warm breeze wafting down the hallway teases Josh's slightly unkept strawberry blonde hair, playfully, like a benevolent owner tickling a corgi's balls. He laughs playfully. Josh bites his lips like a corgi would if you were to tickle its balls, playfully. It sounds like we have world history together. Thanks. Steven's cheeks glow red. He's never met someone so playful before. I'm Steven. They embrace, bodies matching like puzzle pieces, and kiss passionately. Josh rubs himself. I know it must be hard moving to a new school and everything, but it's not all bad. I'll tell you what, after school, let's go to Big Burger. It's kind of the local hang, and I'll introduce you to the dudes. After school, Steven and Josh head over to Big Burger. All of Josh's friends are there. They slip into a booth and squeeze it through introductions. Steven's feeling good. Yeah, you guys get it. I feel like I can be around you guys. I feel like I can be myself around you guys. Then he sees Paul and Veronica walk in. Steven stares at Veronica. A shiver runs up and down his big penis. He says, alluding to something or whatever, "Can I get a Big Burger, extra cool style?" Steven's in love. Let me get, Paul starts, but something's wrong. He looks down from the menu and over the padded straps of his varsity ballistic vest. Paul sees Steven staring, marches over, flips the table, and picks Steven up by the head. You again. Why I oughta. Don't think I don't see you eye-fucking my hot babe girlfriend, dork. I said it once and I'll say it again. Don't you ever let me catch you having sex with my girlfriend. Ever. Because if I catch you having sex with my girlfriend, well, let's just say I better not catch you having sex with my girlfriend. Got it? And I especially better not catch you two having sex in my bedroom while I'm at football. Got it, wimp? Steven nods desperately. Good. Bet you couldn't even get it up, loser. And he jerks Steven off a little. He turns to Veronica. Hey, babe, I'm going to football service now. Love you. Bye. He gives her a peck on the cheek, runs out, hops into his cool new Mustang convertible, and tears ass out of there. Veronica walks up to Steven with her Big Burger, extra cool style, in hand. She sits next to him, runs her hands through his hair, and pulls his face into the space between her widely gapped boobs. She smells nice. Between breaths, Steven turns to his friends. Damn it, I am tired of being bullied by Paul. You know what? I think I know the perfect way to get him back. He turns his face back directly into Veronica's boobs. Veronica, What do you say me and you have sex in Paul's bedroom while he's at high school football service? Sounds good to me, she whispers breathily, like a haunted ghost in a scary house. Veronica knocks. Paul's mom answers. Oh, hello, Veronica. Hello, Miss Bradley. This is my friend Steven. We have to study for a big project in my boyfriend's, your son's bedroom, together, alone. Okay, sounds good, sweetie. I'll bake some cookies. They walk into Paul's bedroom and start having beautiful sex. Paul watches from the window, tears mixing in with the sweat of a hard day's service. He falls to his knees. I better not catch you having sex with my girlfriend because it'll break my heart. The rest of the football team is there too. Jim, Paul's best friend, puts a hand on his shoulder. Hey, come on. That's for babies. He wipes the tears from Paul's cheek. Let's go play football. Paul smiles through the tears. He wipes his nose on his varsity gauntlets. Jim helps him up, and they all play two-hand touch on the front lawn. The blinds are still wide open, and every now and then Paul looks over and sees them still going at it. At one point, his mother sets a plate of cookies next to them, and the two begin to eat chocolate chip cookies off each other, sucking melted chocolate chip off one another as they explore each other's bodies. Bites mixing with kisses, sometimes confusing tender flesh for a mouthful of warm cookie dough. It's all skin. The cookies, the bed, the sheets, the space within each other's arms. Sex is a form of consumption in and of itself. And as Paul watches this, he mumbles to himself, whatever, I don't care. And he turns his attention back to the game. Paul would later die in Afghanistan.
So, John, I do remember this story. I remember this story vividly. This would be a hard story to forget, I think. Oh my God, man. Oh my God. This is one of your funniest stories, and it's still one of your funniest stories. I think this is my favorite ending of any of your pieces. That it's just because it makes it's such a non sequitur, and yet it makes perfect intuitive sense, and it completely annihilates everything that came before, right? Like, it's beautiful because the whole thing is just really really silly and wonderful, like satire of these fucking teenage sex comedies, right?
Yeah.
And you keep embellishing it. It gets sillier and sillier, goofier and goofier. And then he fucking dies in Afghanistan, which is it throws cold water at the entire fucking thing, right? But also makes it so much funnier. And that like little dose of reality, like the awful reality of like what adulthood actually means, does so much to cut against and to everything that's come before, all of our like weird like fantasies about like being a teenager and coming of age and all this shit.
Yeah.
But ultimately, like, some of us have to die in Afghanistan, right?
You you ever see that movie Election?
No, I haven't.
This story's partly I just love that movie so much because the entire movie is just like, ridiculous like comedy where it's just like, all right, this is like over the top just about like a school election.
Mhm.
And then it's like the only part in the entire movie is just out of nowhere where one of the main characters just like looks directly at the camera and he's like, if this didn't happen, I could have been dead. And then it just it just keeps going.
Oh shit. Anyway, John, this is one of my all-time. Was this ever published anywhere?
No one really. I sent it to a few places and they were like, this is nice.
I'm sad. Misery Loves Company. No, Misery Tourism. I was right the first time. I'm sad Misery Tourism didn't live long enough to provide a home for this this provocative and subversive masterpiece.
Well, I wouldn't be adverse if you just wanted to open Misery Tourism for one day.
Just for one day,
Just for one day.
just for, and I'll only tell you about it. Oh
Yeah.
shit, everyone knows now. All right, thank you, John.
Hmm?
Rudy's next.
Oh boy, that was good, John. You should submit it to a science fiction magazine because of the world building in it of the football squad and the cheerleading like duty and all that stuff. That was really good.
Thank you.
Good shit. Yeah, I have some stupid poems to read here. Hold on. Okay, so this first one is inspired by someone from work. I can't say any names, but yeah. This one is called Love Poem. Bud, I'm gonna fuck her brains out tonight, bud. Fucking, I'm gonna be so hard, man. Gonna fucking bend her over the table, brother. Fuck. I'm gonna come home and ask her, can you handle this? Then fuck, I got the stamina for it, bud, tonight, bud. Fucking, I'm gonna fuck her until she's sore to death. 3 o'clock in the morning, man. Jesus fucking Christ. She's gonna say, can you slow the fuck down before you become Earnhardt, my man? But I'm gonna come so hard too, daddy. Daddy, you just watch, bro. She's gonna get fucked like fucking wham, man. Can you handle this? Fucking A, I can handle it, I says. This one is called Coward Poem. I want to be in a situation where run, hide, fight is like rock, paper, scissors, but in the best 2 out of 3 way. I run and get out of the building in time. 1. The shooter moves into my view, then out of it. I'm never in his. 2. I walk into the room and see the shooter blow some cubicle rat away. Then me. 3. I win because luck. Community poem. Most art scene shit is a community design game, but like SimCity or some indie TTRPG where you draw lines between relationships in a post-apocalyptic town. I wish hashtag TTRPGs was quiet for a year. I want the version of an art scene that is Dungeon Keeper, a god hand mentoring me with abuse, God possessing me so he sees through my eyes, mostly for novelty. A community of monsters is getting slapped around by a mostly benevolent deity when they get too rowdy, beating the little peons until they tunnel through walls instead of talking about how there are 4 of them that breathe or don't breathe. This last one here is called Darth Vader Force Chokes the Leader of a Rationalist Polycule or Human Cultists. Well, Roko's basilisk. You're hurting him. You're a monster. I find your lack of faith retarded. And that's it. That's all I have for tonight. Lord, I apologize.
Oh my give me a fucking minute, man. Give me a minute. Holy shit. I wish you had opened with that. So I could have gotten a minute to compose myself here. Fucking oh, excuse me. Man, I don't know what to say, man. That first poem and that last poem fucking killed me. I feel like the protagonist of that last poem because I can barely fucking breathe here. Sorry.
Yeah.
Excuse
First one
me.
inspired by an actual conversation at work. Well,
I
I say
was gonna ask
conversation,
that.
but it was I didn't do it justice. I couldn't. So yeah, that's all I'll say about it before I get fired.
I was gonna say that has to be almost a transcription of an actual conversation because it's I've met so many people who talk exactly like that here in the North Country, right?
It's awesome, and no shade on the person who it's about. I mean, it's awesome.
No, there's
I
a
was really impressed.
perfect kind of poetry to it. It's
Yeah,
can you slow the fuck down before you become Earnhardt, my man? That's great. That's great. Oh my God, holy shit. You can just hear it. You can just hear the cadence of it. Like it feels like so true to that kind of guy going off on that kind of a riff. And that is just fucking,
it was
that
legendary.
kills me. And the last one, above and beyond the actual content of the last one, like the actual words, if you can call them that on paper, the last one, which are very funny, your delivery. I don't know how you changed gears that quickly during your delivery, but your delivery fucking slew me. The rest, when you switched into the Darth Vader respirator noises, that was it. I was fucking dead, man. Anyway, these are. I gotta stop. We gotta move on because
Thanks, Phil.
I'm losing it. I'm losing it, man. It was great. Thank you. Okay. John Casey is next.
Hello.
Hey, John, how's it going?
Pretty good, yeah. This is a piece called The Hard Drive. An image on social media, pixelating for 0.5 seconds, reactivated the memory of my first orgasm. An image of a young, dark-haired woman posing in the erotic glamour model manner popular in the 90s, formed by tiny but visible squares like a fine mosaic. Then the resolution jumped to HD and clarity broke the spell. It became an image of a contemporary woman in a clickbait ad, compositionally similar but semiotically other. I took a sip of espresso and my thoughts changed direction, dropping the impression. But the memory was dislodged. It lurked below the surface for several weeks before it started to rise, disrupting my sleep hygiene. Like any other, this memory had its own secret life in the unconscious mind, but its force of will was unique and alarming. I began dreaming every night of the little attic room atop my childhood home, seeing it throbbing with my uncle's possessions. A paintball gun with various attachments, a hard green mask, a fishing rod and tackle box, 2 boxes of fishing magazines, all kinds of camping equipment, and that clear plastic floppy disk storage box with lock and key. The key was hidden in a brown leather glasses case among coins of defunct European currencies. I wasn't really supposed to be picking through Uncle Mike's stuff, but it had not been explicitly prohibited either. My first orgasm lurked in that room, in that floppy disk storage box with lock and key. But I could not quite see her in the dream. The memory was indistinct, a deep sea creature. My waking self became increasingly aware of these dreams, their repetition and incompleteness vexing me, so I tried to meditate on the details of the memory. There was a haze and an abrupt stopping. There was always a duvet. The disc, my Amiga 500, but the image of her remained obscure. I considered the possibility that my 13-year-old self had passed out in a swoon of singular bliss. I was pulled away from this self-examination by the concurrence of my colleague being laid off and the climaxing of a major project, finding myself having to fulfill the labours of 2 hard-pressed operations coordinators. I formulated my schedule carefully, meeting my minimum health needs whilst maintaining a steady flow of productive output. Then came an unanticipated announcement from a competitor. We had to move our launch date forward by a week. At my request, Donald from Tech posted me over the Fodebit. I knew it would keep me up and alert until the deadline on Monday. I would crash the following week. The first 48 hours were fine. We were hitting our targets. The creators had all signed off on the content. It was just tech and operations on the factory floor. Whilst I scoured a set of terms and conditions for floors, the first wave of real tiredness swept over me. The modafinil was losing momentum. To variate my intake, I crushed 2 caffeine pills, mixed them with rehydration powder, and poured the resulting dust into a glass of sparkling water. As I was sending invitations on a networking site, the image of her struck again, vivid in a profile thumbnail, the pixelated glamour stealing my breath. The name beneath was Mary Love. Manic, my fingers moved to magnify the screen, but a stray one hit W as another hit Control, and the window closed. I immediately reopened the browser and went back to the networking site to search the name, but had no success. Neither the mindfulness instructor nor the recruitment assistant of the research result bore her image. Despite the pressure of the approaching deadline, I turned my attentions to the wider web, following this new clue. Mary Love proved to be a difficult name to search for due to a successful R&B singer, a TV movie, and several actresses. I spent hours hunting, my eye bags blackening as the screen scrolled on. After the mainstream search engines and social media sites, I began investigating the more obscure and salacious avenues of the web. The free pornography aggregators, the specialty forums, the myriad of obtainable personal information directories. Yet my hunt for the image or anything pertinent was unsuccessful. With my work existing primarily online, I had long ceased to register search result adverts, and less specifically hunting for those of our clients. Therefore, it took a long time for me to notice the targeted ad, which must have been trailing my keywords for hours. It breached my notice like a sudden scream. Did your first orgasm involve a computer image? ? Your sex drive may be hacked. Contact us now for free diagnosis. Just as I was opening the ad in a new window, my mobile rang. The screen told me it was Timothy Sloan, operations manager. Before the newly opened window could appear, I enlarged the browser window where the factory floor pages were open, then swiped to answer the mobile, tapping speaker. Hi, Timothy. Hi, pal, is everything okay? We haven't had a progress report of you in a while, and the tech boys were after you in chat. Sorry, Tim, I got bogged down in some personal stuff. It's all sorted now. I'm back on the case now. No worries, pal, as long as everything's okay. Yeah, absolutely fine. You'll get something from me in the next half hour or so. Great, thanks. Call if you need anything. Okay, I will. Bye-bye. Bye. It was foolish of me to have indulged so continuously in the search. I knew full well that the management could track my engagement with the files of factory floor. My mental hygiene was in bad repair. The caffeine was making my skin crawl, but there was only 12 hours until launching and a ton of tasks to complete. With little other recourse, I took the first small line of amphetamine, rehydrated thoroughly, and updated my to-do list. The aridity of intensive desk labor, like a marathon in a desert, parching my lips and eyes. I entered a work trance. All was operation. The hours flew in a hot white fury. I finalized the final folder and sent the OK to management. I stopped. The inertia was nauseating. Exhaustion rose like a wave of static. I closed the factory floor. Behind the browser window lay the single tab displaying the landing page of the ad. Through the growing fog of my inevitable crash, I read the text. Are you haunted by a sexual computer image? Do you suffer from depersonalization and/or blackouts? Do you suffer from substance addiction and/or workaholism? If the answer to all those questions is yes, then it is very possible that you were an unknowing participant in the biohacking operation called StimSim. During the early 90s, a group called Recal Inc., a sci-fi obsessed circle of programmers and psychology students, were experimenting in the uncharted territory between their disciplines. This activity came to be known as StimSim, Victims of the group were manipulated for labor, money, and sexual favors, with no awareness of the biohack. The most prominent program was known as Dead World, who perfected a form of libido hacking using erotic imagery with subliminal visual codes. Dead World leaked floppy disks with coded images into the populace through pornography distributors, then directed the victims by placing coded ads in local papers. In 1997, the group were tracked down and broken up by the emerging cybercrime wing of GCHQ. Although the bulk of the material evidence was taken by authorities, a single hard drive of data made its way onto the private market. My phone rang. It was Timothy Sloan, operations manager. I swiped to answer, tapping speaker. Hi, Timothy. Hey, pal, well fucking done. We nailed it. We got there in the end, yes. Well, we are going to have a little celebration at Paul's Lodge. All the sales team will be there. You really should come. Look, you really should come. It'll be fun. And we need to pass the baton on to sales in real style, right? I suppose it would be good to touch bases. That's right. So I'll send you a car in 30 minutes, okay? Sure, Tim, that's fine. I ended the call and reached for the little tin in my drawer. From the little baggie within, I chopped out a thick line of cocaine. As I bent forward to sniff, my eye was caught by the flashing call to action on the website. Enter email here to begin deprogramming, : I quickly typed my email into the box, then leant forward to suck the narcotic up into my sinuses. As the driverless car cruised, I rehearsed the script for the handover, exhaustion and cocaine wrestling for dominance at the base of my skull. Then into my inbox came the email, open in private, from Maria Love at theharddrive.diag to you. Dear victim, our experts are already tracking you. In the meantime, go somewhere where you are safe and alone. Avoid colleagues. Your deprogramming has already begun, and the next few hours may be disorientating. Help is coming. Maria Love. Paul's Lodge. That is the lodge of Paul Calandra, head of sales, was situated deep in the private woods on the edge of the suburb. The exterior was a nondescript oak panel barn, but inside, the grand modern wood burner, classic Scandi furniture, and contemporary art gave an impression of elegant warmth, a corporate networking warmth, ice cold at its heart. The porter took my coat and drinks order as I entered the open plan living area. The whole sales team were there, center stage, brandishing bubbling flutes and conversing in the departmental lingo of mild obscenities and production spec jargon. Operations manager Timothy Sloan was amongst them, inhaling deeply on the balloon of a weed vaporizer. Red wine appeared in my hand, and I swam into the small crowd. Donald from tech made vulgar comments about a footballer. Janet from marketing asked me what I thought about her department downsizing. Before long, I found myself in a small snug with leather sofas and Persian rug, with just Timothy and the sales managers. We quickly wrapped up civilities and got stuck into the handover. A whiteboard on wheels appeared, then all was the electric buzz of a meeting. Upon completion, Paul Calandra, head of sales, approached me with lines of dust on a mirror. Timothy stepped out, opening a lever arch forward folder towards me. Timothy, Paul, and the sales managers split into individual squares in a grid across the screen of my vision. The squares split again and again, ever occurring, deteriorating into a storm of pixelization. The opening of a file, how many times had that been the last thing I'd seen before a blackout? The strangeness had never occurred to me. It suddenly appeared deeply suspicious, but it was too late. Blackout was upon me. Blackout. I came to in a large bathroom lined with tiny black and white tiles, kneeling before a toilet bowl of thin sick, the cocaine still blazing in my brain. My mobile was in my back pocket. Just 30 mins had elapsed since the conclusion of the meeting. There was an email in my inbox. Open in private to you. Dear victim, We have investigated your case. We are positive that you are a victim of StinSim libido hacking. We have traced your case from Deadworld to your current employer, where you work as an operations coordinator. Warning, your employer is manipulating you by provoking trance states using PR codes, psychic response codes, a pattern of black and white squares like a QR code. You are being exploited for your labor by the company directors, but it's possible that your superiors are using you in other ways also. We recommend that you click on the below link ASAP. That's what's there shall break your programming and the road to healing can begin. It is important that you try to keep away from your colleagues until the deprogramming process is complete. We have contacted you again. Click here. You are not alone. Maria Love. Without a thought, I clicked the link and an image spread across the screen, jumping out of its window. It was the image incarnate, solid in its detail, the image of her, the low-res woman of my first orgasm, posing semi-nude before a tropical backdrop. I was overcome by a stupendous arousal. My eyes rolled. I strained for consciousness, resisting the deep nod of sleep. Then I perceived that the image was disintegrating very slowly, the resolution declining with hypnotic twitching, the colors desaturating, the contrast rising, until at last it was an abstract design of black and white squares. A tingling crawled from the base of my skull to my frontal lobe. My arousal dropped, and my lungs filled themselves fast and deep. There was a knock on the door. Timothy was calling for me, inquiring after my well-being. I remembered that I was still at Paul's Lodge, surrounded by colleagues. I regained my wits and planned my excuses, intending to leave this place as quick as possible. But outside the door of the ensuite bathroom, the managers were waiting. "Hey, pal," said Timothy. "There is one last little detail to go over." He opened a folder towards me. Within the translucent sleeve lay a hard copy of a PR code. I looked upon the abstract design, and for the first time I remained conscious, its enchantment broken. Paul Calendar, head of sales, was sitting on one of the leather armchairs, his shoes and socks removed. "Await commands," said Timothy to me, then turned to head of the sales. "Prepare for an amazing foot massage." "I hope it has a happy ending," quipped Paul. Red rage flooded my mind, a completely unknown sensation, thrilling and deadly. As my line manager turned back to me, he could see something was amiss. My lips curled up like a rampant dog. I instinctively grasped for some weapon, ripping out my mobile from my trouser pocket. I smashed the device into Timothy's panicked face, cracking the screen, and again, snapping the casing, and again, brittle shards in a wet mess. And that's the end.
John, first of all, your delivery was fucking hypnotic. And I love that. But setting the delivery aside, this is such a fantastic idea for a story. Like, your core concept here is so fucking good. Like, the idea because it's rooted in an experience that I think many people have had, which is like the trying to recall like a certain kind of like sexual nostalgia of adolescence, right? Like, most people, I think, probably have no idea what they first masturbated to. And like that, using that as like the jumping off point for this kind of surreal dystopian spy story. And I love the way you like intercut all the mundane detail, like the mundane daily work from home grind into this piece, and the way like the like thriller elements creep in. I love the introduction, for example, the way that like the thing that leads the narrator down this rabbit hole is like a a personalized ad, right? Because just like you say in the story, that shit's invisible to us.
Mm,
If you don't have an ad blocker, you develop an ability to just like that all becomes the background noise of the internet. And so much of this is like about the insidious background noise of technology and how like tuning into that leads to this incredible like dark unfurling of this like sinister thing. I don't know. It's just a really fantastic story, John. I was fucking
thank you.
captivated.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I worked briefly in marketing, and yeah, it peeled back the mask and you see. And yeah, that surface level, I suppose, is the
Yeah, like the superficiality that hides like something really insidious and nasty, you know? It seems like the people in the chat really enjoyed it too.
Excellent. Thank
All
you,
right. Thank you, man.
everyone.
Andy's up next.
Hello. You guys hear me?
Perfectly.
Cool. alright. This is one second, find the document. Okay. Oh, the T-Rex monster. Marvin, a 2-year-old, stepped onto the patio and followed the giant T-Rex, swinging his arms up and down and marching behind the red T-Rex on the sidewalk. The red T-Rex didn't seem to notice him as Marvin halted his marching and started tiptoeing close to the dinosaur's spiky tail. He raised his arms up like swan necks and curled his fingers until they resembled claws. Beneath the bright blue marquee of Beats Coffee Shop, he swayed from one side to the other and lurked behind his enormous prey. The red T-Rex fidgeted and looked over his shoulder. Marvin dove behind one of the faded brick columns that supported the roof of the strip mall. His heart raced and he giggled. He stuck his head out and saw the T-Rex moving once more. Sweat ran down his cheeks. And a small stream of drool spilled out of his mouth and spilled on his bib, like rain falling gently against a cracked windshield. The sun beamed out from the stuffy clouds as Marvin looked up and embraced the warmth. He waddled across the strip mall's sidewalk and shook his rattle that was shaped like a tennis ball. The giant red T-Rex stopped teeter-tottering. It turned around and wobbled across the cracked sidewalk as though we were patrolling the strip mall like a fast security guard. When it saw Marvin, it lifted up its head, stomped its feet, and roared. Marvin opened his mouth, shaking his rattle at the dinosaur. "You're a monster!" The red T-Rex craned his neck down to Marvin's eye level. It growled, breath shallow. "I'm not a monster. I'm a T-Rex," said the T-Rex. Marvin chucked the rattle at the red T-Rex's face. Its head snapped back, tiny arms and tiny hands flailing, and its tail, long and red, went back and forth. The T-Rex twisted his head towards Marvin and thundered a booming roar. Roar. And then the T-Rex head rose from its neck, two skinny white arms jabbing out and holding it with crooked fingers. A young red-bearded man's head popped out from the T-Rex's body like a cork flying off of a champagne bottle. He pointed at Marvin with a shaking finger and said, "You're dead meat, kid." His voice squeaked and shrilled as he reached forward and snatched the rattle from the ground. He tossed it up in the air like a baton, and he caught it with 4 fingers. His pinky was stubbed and bent like a cigarette butt. He slicked back his hair and reached in his pocket in his dinosaur suit. He grabbed a lighter. A flame lashed up. The bearded man hovered the rattle over the flame, the yellow plastic melting. He stared at Marvin and grinned, so that his front teeth showed. A silver cap gleamed on one of them. Marvin sobbed. He said, "I was just trying to be friends." He watched as the rattle chipped in half and tore apart into tiny plastic bits. Reaching forward, he tried to touch the tennis balls that shriveled and melted, but his fingers only grazed the liquefied rattle that slumped sideways like a yellow lollipop stick. The bearded man dropped the rattle and struck the sidewalk. He lifted his foaming T-Rex foot up and brought it down hard. crushing the remaining bits of plastic under his heel. I don't want to be your friend. I have no friends. You're a mean person, Marvin said, his words and breath caught in his throat. He trembled, his chest rose up and down, his breath shortened, throat now hoarse and dry. Marvin's eyes swelled and reddened. Please, kid, don't cry. Shit, I shouldn't have done that. Shit, I shouldn't have said shit. The bearded man placed his hands on his hips and looked up to the sky as though he were checking the sky for a chance of rain. Dropping his head, Marvin stared at his small blue shoes, his tears dropping onto his laces and dampening the nylon. He sniffled, snot running down his upper lip. The bearded man took in a deep breath. He fished out a handkerchief from his shirt pocket and handed it to Marvin. Look here, kid. I know this may seem disingenuous or seem fake, but I feel bad about burning up your rattle. I really am sorry. But you threw it right at my fucking face, and that pissed me off. I'll make things right with you, I promise. Scout's honor. I'm Sebastian. I work at the Smithsonian DC as a dinosaur breeder. Sorry, I know I'm talking your ear off. Yeah, but I hope you feel better. Marvin wiped the snot off his face and nodded. Hi, Sebastian. My name's Marvin. You don't gotta do anything for me. Thanks for saying sorry. You sure? Sebastian folded his arms. He scratched his chin and shrugged. He clapped his hands together and smiling, he said, I know what I'll do for you. I'll buy you an ice cream. Do you like chocolate or vanilla? I'm lactose intolerant, Marvin said. Sebastian laughed. Where are your parents, Marvin? He asked. Looking around the strip mall, the sidewalk was empty. Only the square black tables and lawn chairs stood in the silence. It was early morning, the sunlight beaming from the sky and the wind moving swiftly. Sebastian wondered if Marvin was lost or missing, and this made him concerned and worried for the kid. Now he was ashamed and felt guilty for melting Marvin's rattle and knew he was an asshole for doing such a dirtbag good act. He wasn't a good person, but he wasn't that bad of a guy, right? Marvin pointed. Casey, he said. Sebastian turned around and saw a brunette running towards him. Marvin, oh my gosh, there you are. I've been looking all over for you, Casey said, running from the parking lot over to the patio in her flip-flops. She swooped down and scooped up Marvin in her hands. She kissed Marvin on the cheek, hugging him tightly. Don't do that again. I was literally dying when I lost you. She raised him up and down and held him in his arms. She glanced over at Sebastian and smiled. Thank you for finding him. Seriously, I appreciate it. I'm Casey, Marvin's babysitter. Nice to meet you. I'm Sebastian. I'm a T-Rex. Hey, Sebastian, I gotta ask, what's with the outfit? Casey said. Sebastian blushed and cleared his throat. Oh, I work at the Smithsonian. I'm one of the dinosaur breeders. Oh, that's cool. I love dinosaurs. Marvin clung onto Casey's neon green tank top, sliding down on her skinny frame like a fireman shimmying a fire pole. He jumped and reached up, touching her red jean shorts. Hat, he said. Easy now, Venchkin, Casey said as she took off her red Washington Capitals cap and placed it on Marvin's head. She patted him on the back and frowned. Marvin, where's your rattle? Sebastian gulped. He started to backpedal. Oh, better get going. It's good to meet you, Casey. You too, Marvin. Later. Casey waved at Sebastian and looked at Marvin. He took it, Marvin said, pointing at Sebastian. Wait, Sebastian took it? Casey asked. He took it. Marvin, are you sure? Marvin nodded, pointing to the rattle's remains that were melted onto the patio's concrete. Rattle, he said. Effing a-hole, Casey said, grabbing at Marvin. Sebastian ran into the parking lot, heading towards a blue pickup truck. He opened the door and jumped inside. He turned, the engine revved, and Sebastian backed out of his parking spot. He looked out his window and saw a hand slap into it. Casey was beating on his window with her knuckles. Marvin clung to her shoulder like a backpack. Fuck, Sebastian muttered. He rolled down the window, the glass weakened against the plastic. What do you want? He asked her. Look, I don't know who you think you are, but you don't burn up a kid's rattle. You're a monster, Sebastian. You're a fucking monster. I'm not a monster. I'm just a T-Rex, Sebastian said, rolling up the window. The blue pickup truck skirted out the parking lot, careening from the strip mall. Casey held Marvin in her arms and stamped her foot on the ground. She groaned and shook her head. I'm never leaving you out of my sight again, she said. Why'd he leave? Marvin asked, the red cap falling over his eyes. He had to go, Marvin. Men do that sometimes. Promise me you'll never be like that, Casey said, putting the cap on her head. I promise, Marvin said. Casey smiled, blinking back some tears. She walked over to the white car, opened the back door, and placed Marvin in the baby's seat. Buckling him, she kissed him on the cheek and shut the door. After she turned over the engine, she drove the car out of the lot and away from the strip mall. Sebastian drove home. In his backyard, he took off his T-Rex costume and burned it in a trash can. He watched the flames rising and felt better about himself for a moment, but that was all he needed. And then he went to the kitchen and got himself some ice cream from the fridge. He sat there at the table with the bowl, eating the ice cream dripping down his lips. That's it.
Andy, first of all, welcome back, man. We haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
This is fantastic. I love this story. This story reminds me of what I love about your writing, which is that it's always entirely unpredictable. I never have any idea where your stories are going to go from minute to minute. Like and this one in particular is so full of this like sense of childlike wonder, right? In the way it like unveils its world, right? In the way that you as the reader kind of discover as the child discovers, right? At first you think it's actually a T-Rex, and then you discover it's a guy in a costume. And the relationships between these characters are so sweet, but not in a saccharine way. It's not like it doesn't feel too cutesy. It doesn't feel like emotionally manipulative or anything, but it does feel like human beings just kind of trying to get by, right? Like there's nothing malicious about the way these characters behave. They're mean to each other, but only unintentionally, right? And only out of like miscommunication and different expectations for the circumstances. And it's so sweet the way, I mean, it's bittersweet, right? But it's so sweet the way it unfurls and the way the story goes. And it ends in such a perfect bittersweet way between the burning of the costume and the bowl of ice cream. It's just a perfect, beautiful little story, Andy. And I really enjoyed it. Thank you, man.
It was a lot. Thank you. Thanks for letting me read, guys.
Yeah, thanks, man. And the fucking troll, the William Our Love is Eternal troll is back in the waiting room. I wonder if it is Gigi. We'll wait. So I think that's it in terms of our scheduled readers. But if anyone would like to read before we close out here, just put something in the chat now. I'll give you a few seconds here. Rudy, no one has mentioned up to this point wanting to read or anything, right?
I don't think so, no.
Okay, well, we'll give just a few seconds here. If somebody would like to read, just say so. If not, we'll close up shop and we'll move on to the after party or whatever. All right, okay. I think I'm going to call it there. Thank you to everyone who came and read. Thank you to everyone who came and read. This is a really fun night, I think. There were sometimes you can have really dark nights of misery tourism where there's a lot, people are really like emptying their souls, and there's a lot of, raw nerves and rough edges and despair. And tonight wasn't like that at all. Tonight was so like wall to wall, just funny, just fun and funny pieces. And sometimes you need that, right? Yeah, so big thanks to everyone who read. And yeah, we do this every Friday night. If you're watching this on YouTube, 8 p.m. Eastern time, 5 p.m. Pacific. Anyone is welcome to come and join us. Anyone is welcome to read. Anyone is welcome to just come and hang out. So we tweet out the link from the Twitter account, our Twitter account @MiseryTourism, right before we begin. And yeah, that's it, guys. It's been a great night. Thanks so much.